What's up, DFS Army? It's NASCAR Sunday. And today we got the COTA EchoPark Automotive Grand Prix. Try saying that 3 times fast. Draftkings breakdown. A road race. Road course. That means it's different. That means the research station is going to be really important. Driver skill at this track type is going to be really important. And with me to break it down, as always, the NASCAR guru himself. A living, breathing NASCAR highlight film. Taco DFS, what's up, my man?
What's going on?
Oh, man, I'm excited. It's been a weekend of March Madness and craziness, and we'll get a little break from the insane betting that's going on.
Yeah. RIP to Longwood, man. That's why I had winning it all.
Yeah, well, that was a tough choice right there. Tough call on your part. Longwood. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun this weekend. Nonstop sports. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. And you're right. Taco is the legend.
I get baseball started up here too. Got our boy Shohei Ohtani doing a little gambling.
You know, what's his nationality?
Japanese.
Who loves to
gamble?
They
love the gamba.
Who loves to gamble more than anyone?
You know it.
Yeah. Like, come on. That shouldn't even be not allowed. It should be understood.
If you're Asian, legalize it.
Yeah. And guys, to get into this, road course racing, tell me, Taco, just explain what is different about road course racing as I load up the research station. Tell me how it's different, how it plays different compared to, everything we've seen. We've seen short tracks already. We've seen intermediate. We've seen super speedways. This is the first road course of the season. How's it different? I see some salaries got a little weird on DraftKings, so I'm assuming there's a good reason for that.
So, obviously, we're turning right. That's a huge difference. But we're also turning up and turning down. This is a very roller coastery kind of track. It's 3.5 miles long, which means going to be kind of a system shock after last week where we had 500 laps. Only 68 laps this week. That's the biggest difference by far, I think.
68 laps means virtually minimal bonus for domination points.
Yes. And, last week, FanDuel and DraftKings scored pretty differently. This week, FanDuel and DraftKings score tremendously differently. Usually on DraftKings, place differential, kind of king. Not many lead laps, fast laps to go around. And then on FanDuel, it's just all finishing position, and it's actually like the worst. I think this is like the worst track or second worst track to use guys starting 30th or worse. But it's one of the best for DraftKings. So again, it's like last week, except flipped around. Last week was like the best weeks to use place differential on FanDuel, and like the worst to use it on DraftKings. Now they just kind of flip-flop spots. So we've been here 3 times. We've basically been here 2 times because the 2021 race not only was that in the last gen of car, it was a rain-soaked nightmare race, and we have moved the restart. So in years past, we've seen turn 1 be kind of a clusterfuck. Kind of looks like this. See,
there it is.
Look at my face. All right.
Taco, this is
look at this. They immediately go into this gigantic turn. Look, you've got these guys going 6, 7, 8 wide. Every now and again, you're going to see a guy just go straight instead of turn. It's happened on the restart in Xfinity last week. But if we go back here, look. So if you look back in the corner, you can't really see it, but there's a right-hand turn. If you go back ways, we're starting this race at like that turn, which should allow for, a lot more room for these guys to, like right here. You can see that turn. They're starting like before there. So it gives a lot more chance for guys to get spread out, not so bunched up when they go into this turn. That's going to be, do
you think that's
less can cause a lot of calamity?
So are we looking for less carnage because of how they changed a little bit where sort of the launch pad is? Is that
yeah?
Did they do that to reduce the carnage at turn 1?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen it be successful in the Xfinity and truck races that we've seen.
I would love.
There's still a lot. It's still a high carnage race, and it's a different kind of carnage than you'll have at like a Talladega. I mean, granted, you know, we saw multiple times yesterday people spinning out during that exact turn. It kind of fucks over some people, but most of the time you are going to stay green if you spin out here. And then you could also cut the track and get penalties. You know, we see a lot of penalties, pit penalties, screwing over people. Everyone's going to finish on the lead lap ultimately. I think there's a line out there for 31.5 cars to finish on the lead lap, and it's like heavily favored for the over. With it being such a huge track, obviously the only people that aren't finishing on the lead lap are pretty much your lappers, guys that had damaged their car or whatever. Yeah, you'll see people spinning out, and caution's not being called, so it'll kind of take a bunch of people out in major ways. Just a different kind of carnage, because the caution prop's like 7.5. Take out the 2 stages, that's like 5-6 expected cautions, pretty standard. But a lot of this carnage is going to happen without a flag being called.
Yeah, a lot of spin outs where they just go on the grass.
Yep.
They're not crashing into each other because it's very curly. It's very so a lot of those cautions are happening around the turns when somebody just spins off and then they're on the grass.
And then another big thing with this is, of course, the track type. It's very, very, very unique, and you've got just a bunch of guys that are usually your veterans, your Ryan Blaney's, Denny Hamlin's of the world's. Guys are always like top 5 in salary, getting priced way down because they're just bad at road courses or have never been that great at road courses. And then you've got, your ringers, which, used to be a bit more of a thing in seasons past, but now obviously Shane Van Gisbergen, see him in the 9Ks, this is like his first race of the year. He's like the next big road course guy. Obviously AJ Allmendinger, known to be a huge road course guy. You've got like Reddick and Elliott, of course, who are at the top always. And then we're also seeing this week Ty Gibbs, $8,700. He's gotten a lot of hype recently, but overnight he became the odds-on favorite. Like, he's got a rocket ship starting second. And if you just look at this slate overall, if you look at last week,
you don't expect to see Tyler Reddick. So you don't expect to see Tyler Reddick, the most expensive driver. Everybody's like, what the fuck is going on? Chase Elliott, known to be good here, but big names towards the bottom of the salary. Look at Ryan Blaney.
I think we've gotten used to Reddick being the most expensive at road courses because the last 2 years he's been like the constant number 1 guy. Crushed this race last year, led 40 laps out of the 68, so led most of this race. The weird thing is, though, we're used to, like last week, obviously you wanted all the expensive 11K guys and then just punt as hard as you can, do kind of the studs and duds. This week, all the value is in the middle, the zone that's usually a dead zone that you never want to go to, the 8K range, the 7K range. Usually the ownership of the guys there is in the single digits, the teens maybe. That's where all of the value is concentrated. It makes for very interesting lineups to be built, not what we're used to building.
This is going to be a weird one to build for. Look at Keselowski starting 36 for 6,900. I mean, there are some values. It's going to be really easy. This feels like a leave salary maybe on the table type of situation.
Yeah.
With all of this goodness, it also seems like we can probably ignore the shittiest tier of drivers.
No, that is the dead zone, like 6K and under.
Well, there's
reason like 15, 20 drivers that you just don't really care about because you don't even need to go that low.
Yeah.
You can make great lineups with like Logano being your cheapest guy at 7,400. Like it's been a while since we've seen a slate like this.
The other crazy thing I'm seeing here. So yeah, you have all these great drivers priced down. We're going to get into the research station and try to figure out if any of them are truly terrible at this track type or it's more perception. I think we can get into that. McDowell at 27, Busher. So these guys have done well. I think that's going to be a big part of this. And when you combine it with the fact that there are just no dominator points, it's basically a race about place differential and finishing position. We could throw this is
in Draftkings. We'll have we usually have one guy that leads a good amount of laps, usually wins, that you'll obviously need.
Well, if he's the winner,
maybe another really good finisher if they're like expensive, but the rest usually tends to be
but
like place differential.
a
Or
guy
just
can
top
now.
three guys.
The one thing that I recall, being that I've personally raced on, road tracks. Did you know about this?
Oh,
I've done. I mean, I don't know if you'd call it that. Technically, it was the go-kart place at the mall, but the same idea.
I was about to say, sounds
Same idea.
similar.
Same concept.
Did a
So
little cornering.
the guy in the front is going faster than everybody else. Like the leader,
Yeah,
at the go-kart track, he's getting the fastest laps. I'm assuming that it's the same here. That the person, at least the leader, will be not just getting lead laps every 3 minutes, but also probably a fast lap. Is that kind of how it goes?
yeah. The fast laps tend to get concentrated to just whoever has the fastest car. It's such a long, like usually the larger a track is, the less randomly the fast laps are given out. Like you'll see it like at big ovals like Pocono, Michigan, or what have you. There's such long laps that just the car that is going the fastest is like 100% getting that fast lap. And with all these turns and stuff, like whoever is navigating the track best with the best car is definitely going to be racking up the fast laps. And usually they're in the lead.
To me, it's usually the guy in the front because he doesn't have.
Yeah.
Everybody else is dealing with traffic. The other thing about this track, and that I recall, and you can confirm this for me. And guys, we spent a little extra on the track because it's unique, but you can confirm this for me. It's very difficult to pass on a road course. Like you're constantly on the brake, you're constantly in a turn. So is this more difficult to pass than a standard?
Probably not more difficult than a standard track. I mean, there's such a wide distribution of like skill here compared to a normal track. So I mean, a lot of guys are just kind of trying to finish, and it's going to be very easy to pass them if you're like a really good road course guy. It's really just like a handful of the guys who are like contenders, all just kind of battling it out and duking it out. Unless like one guy obviously has a car way faster than everyone else, which may be the case. For the most part, like you're going to get your guys like AJ Allmendinger, who usually would be pretty happy turning laps, that are going to be very aggressive and look to pass, and there's like no shortage of like passing zones at this long track.
Okay.
Like the S's and whatnot. Like,
I love it.
Yeah, they'll sort themselves out and they'll get themselves to the front if they're fast, if they're good at this track type. But also, yeah, you can see a lot of people running kind of where they shouldn't be. You'll get some guys that overperform a bit, and you can gain a whole bunch of positions in that huge turn one. Also, if you just get really lucky, or you have a guy kind of spin out or slow down a bunch of guys in front of you, it kind of shakes up the back of the field a lot. Let's take a
look at the averages by starting position, because I see a pattern here, and it reminds me a little bit.
Be careful of patterns because it's only 3 races.
Well, and we're going to look at his, but it is predictive somewhat.
Yep. And it's really 2 races, honestly. That's why I'm really worried about using these trends, because the first one, you could throw that in the trash can. That was nothing but rain. That was a fucked up race. So yeah, we can look at it. I think I posted something in the chat earlier that was just all the road courses in the next gen. And it pretty much was like similar scoring, like across the board from first to last.
This is what I'm saying. The pattern I'm seeing is that, again, drivers starting in the back, averaging 28.5, mid starters, 30-ish, 28 to 30-ish. So the pattern I see is place differential is very, very important. It reminds me of super speedways and plate racing a little bit in terms of how the scoring seems to happen. It's not as inverted. Like the guys starting up front do okay as well, but there's virtually no differentiation from where you start to how much you score.
Yep,
that's the pattern that I'm seeing. I don't think that that's an anomaly based on that one race. I think that's probably how it's going to go.
I do see the guys that start in the top like 15 that aren't like the best of the best drivers. They tend to not score very well. And also, if you look at averages by 5 starting positions in the mid tier, those guys starting in the back tend to do pretty well. And then look at the low tier guys that start in the back. Not as well.
Yeah, but
they're never optimal.
Not horrific, but not optimal, probably.
It's those mid tier guys that kind of start in the back, and we have a ton of those this week. Of course, it uses season long driver rating, so it's a little bit shaken up. So you got a lot of these guys that are really good, like season long driver rating wise, right? Like a Hamlin or something. He's usually like one of the very best. Not the case at a road course, obviously. Guys like him, guys like Blaney, guys like Logano, these are like championship level drivers that are very, very, very mid at road courses. So it really does shake things up. It's probably best to look at it. Yeah, here.
Like let's take a look at the last couple of races. Really important stuff. And again, this one's unique because you have so many studs starting towards the back.
This
so
is
it's
just
hard
like last night. Last night you saw like the second highest score on the board was some scrub from the back that had good place differential and finished like 8th. Here you have Gilliland finishing 10th, and it scores as much as Reddick dominating the race.
Yeah. So, starting from the back, play stiff important. You had Chris Buescher, massive play stiff, scored as many as a guy who, this is what we were talking about before. Reddick starts second, in first most of the race, leads 70% of the laps, and only got 13 fast laps, which you're right. I guess I was wrong about the leader eating all the fast laps, but nonetheless, he only scored 63, and a play stiff guy who was only top 10 got 60. What this tells me is that crew of mid starters who are all in the 30s and the high 20s, those guys are going to score massive if they just finish top 10, and they might outdo even race winners that start up towards the front. So that is absolutely something to keep in mind. If we look at this, at least this one race, a lot of finishing position, but the play stiff guys, and we have so many more play stiff guys in this track, put up big scores, and we have those kind of drivers all over the place this week. Let's go back to the previous one and see what happened then. So this one is 2022. We only come here once a year. Chastain
had the best of both worlds, had some play stiff, and then also dominated the race.
Yeah, he just owned that race, which is fine. But everybody else, look at these scores, 56, 48. Like, it was low scoring drivers that kind of
had so many drivers scoring very similarly to each other.
This caused such a disgusting group of ties.
Yeah.
That particular,
obviously that tie would be broken by salary, which I imagine Dillon and McDowell were the cheapest.
Yeah, but that might have not been relevant also. So here you have, again, 27, 13, 21. A lot of play stiff is what's making its way into these winning lineups. This is the rain race that we can kind of ignore. But even still, this one, I mean,
that was just all play stiff.
But yeah, if you look at the raw scores, it's just all play stiff. So I like it. This is my kind of track.
Yeah,
I like it. This is
this is low key, just like a Daytona kind of race.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. I like it. So play stiff, super key. Oh, and by the way, we got all these amazing drivers starting far back. So let's see if any of these guys are actually decent. So give me the measure of how we figure out if a driver is actually good at road course racing.
I think most people just know at this point. Really, anyone like 10 or under in the odds, you're gonna be the most competitive here.
I mean,
probably cutting off at like Elliott.
Elliott
was slow in practice and has just generally been in poor form. But like before, in the last gen car, he was like the best by far. This gen, he hasn't gotten one win. He's been like there. But yeah, like Reddick, Elliott, Van Gisbergen, just kind of got to give it to him.
Yeah, Byron got the win here on the rain one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's give it.
And Allmendinger, Gibbs. Those should be like your top like competitive guys. Maybe Bell, throw him in there. That should be who's competing for the win ultimately, and then Chastain also.
Willie Byron 4-1. Ty Gibbs 4.3 to 1. They love Ty.
Yeah, overnight he jumped from like 4th or 5th favorite to like the favorite, and he is fast, as we can see in practice. We actually get a reasonable amount of practice in Cup compared to Xfinity and trucks. Mind you, I think I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think if you you cut the course, I don't think your lap. They said that your lap didn't get counted in practice, but I don't know how to check that exactly. So I'm not sure if some people have inflated times because they took shortcuts or just doing general no things. But for the most part, we can kind of see who's running fast here. So like these practice times are pretty reliable.
Let's look at some of these practice times. So Ty Gibbs just the fastest, and it's interesting that the 3-lap, 5-lap, 10-lap averages, for example, they seem very consistent. So it wasn't like they were out there all over the place. And as we look through here, you've got there's a surprise down here, but Ty Gibbs, number 1 overall, fine. Odds love him now. Alex Bowman was
his fastest lap was half a second faster than anyone else.
That's madness, right? I think Ty Gibbs is somebody we want a lot of exposure to. Alex Bowman was really quick. Do we feel good about him? And
I have him as core for me personally.
Okay.
I think he's surrounded by guys that'll take ownership from him. I'm praying that's the case. I'm hoping Bowman is even somewhat sneaky. Every time I do that, he ends up getting jacked up. So it's kind of whatever. But
look at my boy Colo.
He was amazing last week. I love Bowman after last week.
Colo starting a little too high, but man,
yeah,
he's quick. I might have to quit Colo today, but it's not going to feel good. It's not going to feel good. Bubba Wallace, 5th. And then what happened in the 10-lap? He spun out.
Look at Bubba Wallace's track history here if you want to have a chuckle.
Yeah, he's terrible here. This is not good. This is not good at all. Yeah,
Bubba Wallace, one day.
Dangerous. Not good.
And then look at Ross Chastain's for the opposite of that.
Let's take a look at Chastain. Chastain had a fast car.
Yeah, him and Bowman very, very, very good.
Look at him, 4-1 and 4. So Ross Chastain, not known as this great road track guy, and yet here we are. He's absolutely dominating this track. So Kyle Larson's got a fast car. He had a 2nd, a 14th, and a 29th. So not super great. Christopher Bell mostly crashes when he comes here for some reason, but one time he didn't. He looked pretty good. He got a fast car, 3, 3, and 2. That's I mean, come on. Where's he starting?
4th.
4th. Yeah, nondescript.
Oh, one more major thing that I should point out before we really go down the field. Right now, Ford is plus 750, which is the worst manufacturer odds I've ever seen in my entire life.
Is that because all their guys are starting far back? Or are they slow? Like, what's going on with? I mean,
plus
the important
750. Like, if it was plus 600, those would be the worst odds I've ever seen for a manufacturer. They are plus 750, and Toyota's minus 150. I think it's just pretty obvious that Toyota has like the speed to beat, and then Chevy is right there as like that. Hendrick and Trackhouse right there as like the main competitors to them, and then Ford just looks horrible.
Well, I mean, look at Ford, right?
But they all start low, so you're gonna kind of be playing some Fords.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can't
score well. It's
Logano,
just their odds to win is horrific this week, just brutal.
Dude, Logano starting 35th. I don't need him to win. I just need him top 10, and he's in the nuts. That's 28th starting point. Let's look at some of these Fords. They are starting far back. That's part of the reason why it's so poor for Ford, because all of their guys are starting so far. Look at Keselowski starting 36 like a fucking scrub, right? Is he a scrub? I don't know.
He's always kind of been
he's not
very mid, very mid. Consider if you look at last year's finishes and then compare them to his teammate Buescher, like the speed difference is insane.
He's just not that good at this. Yeah, he's just not that good at this.
Never has been. He's always been, seriously, really just Penske drivers overall. Keselowski, Logano, Blaney. Just looking back, like those guys have always kind of not been good at road courses. That's where Austin Cindric's the saving grace. He's like the one actual good road courser at Penske. But even here, he's like the one guy that qualified decently.
He's been pretty good. He's been pretty good here. I can't knock him. 6th and 8th, and
he's the only Ford that has any odds behind him.
Yeah,
but he's starting like 50-1 or worse.
He's starting 11th, and that ruins it. So, I'm not trying to get. I feel like if you're taking the driver starting a little bit closer to the front, you want the types that are going to compete for the win.
Yep.
Might as well just play Gibbs in them. And so it's going to be interesting to see how these numbers come together, guys. I am excited to break it down. Do we need to look at anything else here on the research station, or are we going to jump right into this thing?
I mean, we can
How's
jump
Killer
right
Priest?
in.
Yeah, Killer Priest. I'm just looking at the practice times, just kind of like absorbing it. But yeah, Bowman, Gibbs, Chastain, all starting up close. So it's going to get weird. It's going to get a little weird.
I guess I will say, if you're going to be looking at finishes, maybe scroll all the way to the right and just give a quick glance at who just sticks out in green as far as average position versus actual finish. Like, so this is like where they're running in the race compared to where they finished. So like Allmendinger has some rough finishes here, but you can see he was running excellently here. Just ended up not having the finish he wanted. So Logano, another guy like that. So just be mindful of some of these people who may not have the good finishes overall, but
and D-Swaz
definitely ran a lot better than where they finished.
Suarez.
Yeah, Suarez's finishes were I think they're pretty awful here. Yeah, 27th, 24th, 33rd, but he's running decently in them. And I think a lot of that is that 2022 season. Trackhouse had a ton of speed. Obviously, I think Trackhouse cares way more about Van Gisbergen in this race, but we will see.
They're trying to turn Van Gisbergen into a star.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see how that goes. All right. Let's jump in and break this thing down. Top to bottom, we got an idea of the practice times. We have some strategy understandings here, right? Play stiff, no dominator points coming. Finishing position is critical. So with all of that being said, let's get into some of the plays. So up top, your chalk, starting third, really good driver, Reddick.
This whole range, I think, on super speedways, the expensive guys tend to get a little bit more owned than they should be because everyone's got all the salary. They're like, what do I do with the salary? I got so much salary. That's, again, going to be the case this week. If you're not leaving salary on the table, I think people will gravitate to Reddick and Elliott as just a place to spend because people hate leaving money on the table.
Tells me that Elliott is probably not the best of plays.
I do think Elliott's going to go a bit overowned because there's still some of that residual, there was at one point where Elliott was winning like 4 or 5 races in a row at road courses. Hasn't happened then in the next gen car, and I think people are definitely slowing down on him, but still.
Do you think you could play Gibbs and Reddick in the same lineup? Like you've got Gibbs, Reddick, all the good at this guys are starting in the front group, and we don't see history here.
I could see specifically Gibbs and Reddick, if they're just so much faster than everyone else and finish 1-2, then that could work. Now, if you're playing Byron, you probably don't want to play him with Gibbs and Reddick. That seems ridiculous. But I mean, with those two being like by far the odds-on favorites, like those two together, I guess could make sense. We haven't seen it historically, although we don't have many races to go off of. But even when you look at the historical races, like other road courses, that's still extremely rare. They would have to finish first and second. And like you could look at yesterday's Xfinity race. You had Kyle Larson. He ended up winning the thing. Wasn't optimal. Wasn't even like close to optimal. You need the guys who are actually like leading the lap. So they would need to not only finish first and second, they would need to like split dominate. But with Gibbs's price, it's definitely way more in play with his price.
Well, it depends on if salary matters, but that only comes into play. But this is a really unusual board where I would say this whole group right here can almost treat it like a monolith in a sense that, from these people starting up front between Byron, Reddick, Gibbs, even Chastain and Bell and Elliott, let's throw him in that mix.
So you can look at the research station. You can see there's just a giant drop off if you look at like lead and fast laps at road courses. Like the first half of the field, everyone has some. Second half of the field, there's nothing, just nothing but red. There's kind of a great divide of who has and who doesn't have here.
Gibbs, overnight racing. So Yeah, these are the lead lap, the win threats, right? You could see it
For
in the win
sure.
odds here. You got Reddick, minimally Elliott and Larson. Larson's always a threat. Bell a little bit better. I
Larson
think
has the place differential kind of baked in with him, so
I like Larson. I'm fine with
it's
that
a
play. I
decent
think
little place to spend up on DraftKings, but it's worth noting with some of these guys. In my notes, especially, I spent a lot of time saying who you play on DraftKings, who you play on FanDuel, because it is very, very different this week. Like, for example, Truex, pretty bad play on DraftKings. I'm not gonna lie, dude doesn't get fast laps. He's very unlikely to lead, even though he's in a JGR car. He's one of the most expensive guys. I don't know why, but on FanDuel, you can see his price is extremely cheap. It's way more forgiving to guys starting up front. So guys starting up front do not score anywhere as well on DraftKings. So it's kind of the definition of a play on FanDuel, not on DraftKings. So it's kind of a good week to hedge between the sites again.
weirdly priced as well. Kyle Busch, we didn't really talk a ton about him earlier, but he's starting 16th. He's got a little place, or 26th. He's wait. Starting 16th.
Yeah.
Right. Got a little place diff upside.
Yeah, and he's had good runs here as well.
Yeah.
He finished second here last year. He had 4 top 5 finishes last year at road course in 6 road courses.
He feels really under the radar. Like Kyle Busch just
Well,
floating under
he's
the
kind
radar.
of if you look through NASCAR YouTube at all right now, there are a bunch of videos out there about going just focusing on Kyle's cold streak currently and how bad he's running this season. So I think people are going to generally be off of him. That seems to be the sentiment. I think Brady liked him as like a contrarian play.
Yeah, I think he's
And
interesting.
honestly, yeah, I think he's a good contrarian play. It's a good week to be contrarian. Again, when it's more predictable, being contrarian tends to not work as well. But when it's more unpredictable like this, being contrarian is certainly a decent strategy.
Yeah, plus this guy's been really good at this track. I mean, what's wrong with that? Like, we literally just said this is a track all about driver skill and it's repeatable, and this guy's been crushing it here, and we're all like, oh, let's play everybody else. So I don't know. Seems like a playable guy here with Kyle Busch. Yeah, and again, you got to choose between these upfront starters: Chastain, Byron, Reddick, and Bell, and Gibbs. So how many of those? Obviously, to me, Gibbs is the top play, right? Of this whole group, Gibbs is the guy that had the fastest car. He's the prohibitive odds-on favorite, all of that.
Yeah. We just haven't seen him actually manage an entire race. As where Reddick, we've seen kind of nothing but that since the switch to the next-gen car. So I think they're both like co-favorite almost at this point.
JJT's got it right.
Yeah, Reddick.
One little penalty, one little thing, you get sent to the back.
Or a Reddick pit moment, which is, I guess, what makes him risky in a sense compared to Gibbs. So they kind of both have their inherent risks baked in, but they're probably both like co-best plays. And I think a lot of people will like to gravitate towards Reddick. I don't think he's going to be the highest owned. When I first did the slate, I had Reddick as the highest owned because, again, there's not many places for people to spend salary. But with the odd shifts, Ty Gibbs has to be the chalk here. And there's I see a lot of opportunity to, I guess, fade him in tournaments. Because he's going to be very boomer bust. He either like has a rocket ship and like dominates this whole race like we'd see out of him in like Xfinity, or he's just a chalk bomb waiting to happen.
Sounds like
yesterday we let that first timer in Xfinity get like 48% owned or something, and like lap 1 the first turn 1 he just didn't turn, and that was it for Zilich. Like, so I mean, Ty Gibbs still young, of course. He's really rounding into form. I think at this point he has enough experience to where that's not as much of an issue. But again, he's probably not as safe as Reddick overall.
Let's talk about the play stiff guys that make it all work. Listen, we're gonna.
Can we talk about Byron? Actually, I think we kind of skip past Byron.
I feel like I kind of want to fade Byron. No.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Is even it doesn't feel like a very good play, because even if he does stay in the top 3, and even if he does like lead stage 1, which is 15 laps or so, which he's probably not going to. Even then, I don't see much upside from him at all. He's not really a fast lap guy. And I also just don't see him winning stage 1. I really wanted to see the stage odds. Like, I needed those to drop today, but they did not, sadly.
Yeah, no, I again, Byron, all the top 3 guys, especially, if they're not finishing in the top 2 or 3, they're not going to be in the winning lineup.
Yeah.
So
unless they do what like Reddick or Chastain did and just lead a fuck ton. But I mean, in both of those cases, they just won the race. Yeah.
You drop 6 spots, you're done. You know, like all the lead laps are erased.
Pretty much.
They're all erased at that point. So every one of these guys is dangerous. I feel like in cash, you almost maybe shouldn't play any of them.
I still think in cash you just like play it like Daytona and just take guys from the back. Because I could see Gibbs getting popular in cash, but that doesn't seem cash safe to me. Because if any little thing goes wrong, like a penalty or whatever, he's kind of toast, and there's not like a crazy amount of upside to be had from him starting up front. So I do think you just stack the back of the field in cash and you're going to be fine.
That's what I'm saying. It's not like the pole sitter or the guy who leads laps is scoring, 88 or 95. They're getting like a 69 compared to the
69 would be like the best ever here. They're
that's what I'm saying. Like if they win and lead the whole thing, it's like a 69, and your play stiff guy that goes from 38 to 12th is getting like a 57. Yeah, it's really close. So you can't get blown away, but you could certainly get destroyed by a guy starting first who ends up in 15th, and then you're getting minus points or a really terrible score. So, all right, let's get into the play stiff group here though. And Denny Hamlin, just the forgotten man, by the way. I didn't even see him down here.
Yeah, on the right team too, which is wild because JGR is like heavily favored here. It's just Hamlin. I don't think he strikes anybody as much a road course guy. He also struggled heavily in practice. He was like 33rd. Never had a top 10 run here. Had the runner up at Watkins Glen, which is a track he's just good at. But outside of that, he's been allergic to top 10 finishes in the next gen car just overall. Like he's usually running like 15th to 20th or worse.
Denny, not the best. I mean, I thought Denny was good at everything. So
that's So this is a newer track too. So again, with it being the opposite of last week, which is why you can't have a process that's consistent week to week in NASCAR. Sometimes you have to completely reverse the process. Last week with the high tire wear, we saw veterans across the board just crush. And Hamlin was one of those, obviously. It's like him and Truex finishing 1-2 was like, those are like the veterans with Harvick gone. With this being a newer track, with the, before, for most of Hamlin's career, you had like 2 stops at road courses, and it just wasn't worth it to get good at them because they didn't have road courses in the playoffs, and it was just kind of a side event. You see guys like Keselowski, guys like Hamlin, guys like Logano, they never invested into getting good at road courses. There's no point for them to. They want to get good at the short tracks and the intermediates and the ones that mattered in the playoffs. That's like win championships. Hamlin might as well have in that time because he never won a freaking championship, still hasn't. But again, these older guys are not as good. Like the veterans are just not going to be as good as these guys with specialized skill sets or new drivers that obviously have way more of a focus on road courses, with there being more of them in NASCAR. I think the track being new overall and being very, I heard I think like the truck race people are saying this drives very similar to the sim, and that's always going to help younger guys because old guys like you don't want to see a few of these old guys in the simulator. They ain't about that life.
I want to try the sim.
It's fun.
Yeah. Denny Hamlin, I've been watching that Netflix show, and it's got me biased for Denny Hamlin for everything. He's going to finally get it done. I don't know. Watching Netflix. All right, so the other guys.
This is a chunk right here. This chunk right here is juicy
zone. Yeah, this is the fire zone right here, right? And
this is
2, 3, 4, 5 drivers.
Just a warning.
Unreal.
I don't want to make like a rule or anything, but you do have to know that the DS is just going to want to only play these guys.
I love it.
Like Gibbs.
That's fine.
Yeah.
A lot of these are Fords though, and they're going to be slow.
Yeah, so, maybe just take like 1 or 2 of like the deep place differential guys and not 3. That could almost damn near be a rule that you make.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, if the race just ends up being a pure fuck fest, or like there's someone that leads a lot of laps and then he wrecks out or gets penalized, black flagged, whatever, then I guess that could work. But
I think what
you
you
have to
want
be
to
careful
do,
about taking too many of these guys and not having like the big score, the Chastain level score.
well, I think what you have to do is force a couple of the. I think those other ones are going to have to be forced, one or two in every lineup, and then it's just going to fill it out with these types. That's more how I see the math going down. It's just like you almost have
Yeah.
to, like, you know.
But I don't want to recommend an at least one either, because at first I thought, okay, at least one, but not more than two for Doms. But we have seen like Chastain be both place differential and lead laps here.
It could
And I don't
happen.
think there are too many people with that upside here. I think most of the top competitors kind of qualified up front. Yeah, so could work out. The only issue I guess would be like Allmendinger starting 14th. Maybe you make him a Dom. If you like
Add a few to the DOMs,
yeah,
right?
if you just add
Yeah.
a few, they're the people who are just like the top contenders to lead laps and stuff. You could probably get away with doing an at least one, at most two for Doms. Be perfectly fine.
With the DOMs being effectively this group that have a star.
Yep.
I mean, you know, right? So let's just go through these guys. Anybody better than anybody else? Michael McDowell, he's in a Ford, but man, this dude has been pretty good at this type of track. 4.5-star play.
Yeah,
Starting
so
27th.
he has a win and seven top 8 finishes in his last 11 road courses. He's wrecked out of the last 2, but had an absolutely dominating win in Indianapolis, and actually at Watkins Glen he was also dominating, but then like wrecked out and like finished last.
He was also awesome
So
last
a little
year.
bit of an asterisk. Yeah, this track type in particular.
Yeah, but
just
he was more
amazing,
awesome last year than he's been this year so far.
Yeah, but we haven't been to a road course either, and he's really just good at 2 things: super speedways or road courses. We go to the super speedways this year. McDowell's great, so I think he's going to continue being great where he's great at. McDowell's like his star difference between DraftKings and FanDuel. You see that, like, he is so obviously a DraftKings play. Very, very cheap on DraftKings, priced way up on FanDuel, but it's just not set up to score well there with the place differential.
Top 10 is the nuts for Michael McDowell.
Yeah.
If he gets there, he's going to be there. He's going to be in it.
Yep, and he can certainly do that. So he's one of the top players on the entire board for sure.
Busher, slightly less, I guess, of a top play compared to McDowell, but still really good at these tracks.
He's got the floor, so he's on like an insane run of form. I think it's he has one finish outside the top 10 in his last 11 road course races, and that was an 11th. He really fell off during that 11th place run. If you slot him in for 10, he's pretty damn safe to get a 10th if that trend continues, right? Like that's like 44 points there. That's like really good value. If he finishes like 7th, right? Which is, kind of the upside we've seen from him, that's like 50. That's like pretty much guaranteed to be in the optimal there. And that's not including any odd fast laps he picks up, which would just further cement it.
Yeah,
you've seen here 50 is all you need.
Right there. So he'll need, from his starting point, he needs about a 7th or some fast laps mixed in to,
if you look at
score enough. But here in this one, again, it's that 50-pointer.
He was there. He was optimal in 2022, and look at 2023, this last race. Look who the second highest score was, his teammate Gilliland.
Well, 36 to 10th is going to be crazy. Are we interested in Gilliland today? We'll go back to that, but I mean, he looks like
he's kind of part of the giant range of like, why do you even need to go here? But we'll get there.
But if he finishes in 10th, then you can go there. Here's Busher finishing 8th on that track again. Just familiar names that we've now broken down. Chastain again. We didn't talk about Eric Jones. Had a good run last year or 2 years ago. Really, Eric Jones
couldn't be last year.
Yeah, no.
We'll get to Eric Jones in a sec.
But yeah, so anyway, that just shows some of the scores. Like it's 48, 50 that it takes to get there. So you could do the math. From a guy starting 20th compared to 27th. So math it out for McDowell. What is he needs to get from 27 to 11?
Get to 15th for 40 points.
How do we get to 50?
He gets 10th? To 50 through 10th. 10th or 11th.
10th or 11th. McDowell's there if he finishes 10th or 11th starting from there. And now continue on. We've got Bowman, who had the fast as hell car. Yep. Silent assassin, silent but deadly.
Yes.
It's SBD on the track in road courses for Alex Bowman, core play. Yep. I love this.
Third and second here over the last 2 years in this next gen car. Yeah, just runs pretty consistently well. Just overall at these road courses, and he's a good finisher. Tends to stay out of calamity.
As long as he stays out of trouble, I think
he's-
Alex Bowman is that guy that is pretty locked into gonna be the nuts if things go clean.
Yeah, doesn't have as much place differential upside as the guys around him. So if field really gets shaken up, I could see some guys outvaluing him. But I think of anyone in this range, he has by far the most like top 10 upside. Well,
Is top 10 enough?
Busher technically has
Yeah.
the most, but like he's like a ninth place driver, is where Bowman. I guess Bowman has the most like top 5 upside.
Actually,
of anyone in
I
this
misread
range.
this, but what? So he's starting 17th.
Mhm.
We need a 50. He's got a super fast car, so we have to worry less about place diff here. With Alex Bowman, we're talking about we need probably a top 5 though. What? Give me the numbers. Bowman to get to 50, is it about 6th place?
Yeah, he's about a 6th place or better, and that's not counting any fast laps, which he should rack up with a car this fast. Considering he's ran well in the top 5 the last 2 races here, it's certainly doable.
Not a nut lock though, actually.
Also has much better odds than everyone else in this range.
So that is the positive for him. 29-1, starting 17. Not a nut lock, but if he does get to the top, he looks like a top 5 car. That's really what's going for him. Like
he's got way more speed than everyone else.
He won't accidentally fall into the nuts. He will have to drive his way into the nuts.
Yep.
But it could happen. So here's your big place diff trio of Blaney, Logano, Briscoe. We're going to skip Cindric there in that discussion, but Logano had some pretty good finishes here. Blaney is just generally good at being a race car driver. Why aren't we higher on these guys? Well, or how high can we get on these two, especially Logano starting 35th, where again, by default, Logano now only needs about a 12th or 13th place to be in the winning lineup.
So I think what's holding these guys back the most, it is funny that we just got a straight up Penske range, but I think with Penske and just Fords overall at this track is outside of Cindric, who's kind of unplayable because he starts 11th. Fords are just slow. The plus 750 odds, again, the worst odds I've ever seen for a single manufacturer ever. And Ford is like half the field. They are just kind of slow across the board. You've got to worry about their upside. They just don't seem to have the speed that Toyota and Chevy have. And so these guys are going to be starting in the rear. Their floor, of course, is going to be pretty good. Logano, yeah, he had the 3rd here in that rain race or whatever. He had his next 2 finishes after that were like 31st and 28th. But we saw he ran significantly better than those finishes showed. And if you look at last year, Logano has 4 top 10 finishes in the last 5.
Logano is actually good or he was good last year at road courses based on the numbers. So I don't know.
Logano does seem like a really safe play with some upside. He just has all this built-in upside just from starting 35th and can move up a lot. But I do see his potential to just like kind of run like 25th and just be bad. Him and Blaney kind of, just have that overarching cloud over their head of Ford might just be really stinky. But that could also factor in with McDowell and Busher, I guess. But those guys do seem to be like actual skilled road course drivers.
Well, that's what I'm saying. McDowell and Busher, same Ford. And I think Logano might be a skilled secret skilled road track driver as well.
I think he just kind of backed into some like good finishes there, honestly. Nothing about like Logano seemed pretty slow in practice, like 25th. His odds are 66. Like Blaney's at 71. Like these are odds you would never see these guys at normally. So yeah, a lot of it just has to do with them starting in the back. They're not all that different though from like the guys cheaper than them. Like they probably have higher upside than like a Jones or Keselowski. It just seemed kind of slow. Noah Gragson kind of also seems to be in their boat, but you've got some guys that actually are starting like a lot farther back. Logano is going to he's the highest value projected play on the slate, so I don't think there'll be any shortage of Logano in the DS, but I almost kind of want to not I would recommend against using him in like 70% of lineups or something ridiculous like the DS will want to spit out immediately.
Yeah.
Because he's going to project really well. He's got a great meme projection because of the floor, but he could also just be kind of slow. Blaney is kind of there with like Bowman and Buescher and McDowell is where their ownership is kind of a blur. And I hope that Bowman's on the low side of that. I see McDowell and Buescher getting popular. I think Blaney might be. I don't know, because overall this season Blaney's been constantly been a factor. So it's really about like ownership here could really vary. Like obviously Logano starting near the very end is going to be pretty popular, pushing like 30%. But if Blaney ends up getting forgotten about, which I don't really see, but I don't know, he could be all right. It's just he's literally like way worse at road courses than Logano overall. So I don't like him as much. I don't know. Again, this whole range kind of just like a blur, and I'm more enthusiastic about playing like Bowman, who actually does look like he has real speed.
It's less. So what I'm seeing here is it's less. We're getting this dichotomy between actual drivers who are good, who can potentially threaten for top 10s and top 5s, right? There's some of those, but a lot of those are in the teens and the low 20s. And then you get to this group of these big name drivers that have so much place diff upside and are so cheap,
but also don't care. That's another thing. Penske, like the reason Penske's so bad at this track type is because they don't care. They're here to win championships. They won the last 2 championships. They didn't win the championships by being good at road courses. That's not what they care about. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense that someone like a Logano never took the time to invest into getting good at these road courses. So the upside is certainly limited with these guys.
But he's not bad at it. That's what I'm saying.
The fact he even got those top 10 finishes is remarkable and just a testament to like his race management skills. But we're not going to see him be like fast or get fast laps or anything.
Almost the whole rest of the board is fade. So we can go through it real quick, but there's just a lot of fades here. Noah Gragson, does he have any good finishes here?
So last year he ran in, the legacy Chevy, whatever the fuck that team was from last year before they got their shit figured out. And ran like 20th. He did fine. He's a solid road course driver, as you've seen in Xfinity.
39th. 20th, 39th to 20th is already 40 points.
Yep. Starting dead last, yeah. He doesn't need to do a whole lot.
Understand that these guys, 36th, 38th, 32nd,
he's like what, they need like 16th to get 50. Yeah. You don't need 50 from someone this cheap. Also,
they don't have to be that good. They could just like Logano. We can go off about Logano not caring or not being that great at this, but he 15th place, he's in the winning lineup.
Yeah,
from 35. So they don't have to be that good. These drivers normally, when we're playing guys at this price point, we're not looking for a win. We're looking for a top 20.
I think Gragson just has more upside overall. Gragson kind of seen it this year.
Let's see. I mean, yeah, he's definitely odd. His odds are better than some other drivers. So it's not that much worse than Briscoe and Keselowski, to be honest. And then all right, so Gragson looks pretty good. Core play, very playable, especially in a cash lineup. You just put him in there. You get your points.
Well, on DraftKings, absolutely.
Then from there, and we're talking primarily DraftKings, you got a lot of fade spots here. Austin Dillon, meh. Carson Hocevar starting 18th, meh.
This is just the giant dead zone. There's barely anyone to even talk about.
Gilliland had crushed here, no?
Yeah, so Gilliland is good at this track. 16th in 2022 and 10th last year. He was obviously in the nuts coming from the rear, flying all the way up to 10th. So very good run from him. Doesn't look like he has like crazy speed in practice or anything. So he's still just going to be a kind of a contrarian, probably low owned tournament play. He has done like well this season. And also I see him getting a tiny bit of ownership. It's the only person in this range I really see being owned besides maybe Barry. who people may remember from last week. But
Berry 400 to Warren. It doesn't look good for Berry. He's had some good finishes.
Berry was ultra slow in practice.
Yeah.
It's also a thing for Eric Jones. I'll point out. Yeah, Jones starting 38th, but not only was he terrible in practice, like really bad. Last year at road courses, his finishes were 36th, 29th, 35th, 16th, 32nd, and 23rd.
Sadly,
they were like good the year before. It was weird. I don't know. We haven't seen shit from Jones as far as speed at road courses in a minute, but he does have a top 10 here from 2022. So, I mean,
the rain.
If there's anyone I think that might just be like super slow, the guy starting in the back that may not be the most playable, it's Jones. But I do just like Jones personally. So I'll probably end up still playing him a bit. But he's like, of all these guys starting the very, 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 very back, like he's probably the worst of them.
Jones,
yeah. I'd much rather play Gregson.
I mean, I don't want to play Timmy Hill, so I'll take Jones over him. All right, so just a couple of little notes here in the final group. Killer Priest, even starting 24th, you always need a little Killer Priest in your lineups.
Yeah, so one of these guys could potentially kind of fuck up the slate. Now, starting 24th, I don't see that kind of upside from him, but it is worth noting that if you take out the 2 races from last year where he just got wrecked out, which includes this race from last year, his finishes at road courses were 13th, 15th, 17th, and 11th. That's pretty good. Starting 24th, like if
he was good last year.
The only way it makes sense to me though, or like the only way you would need to play some like this starting or at a price of like 5,600 is if he has like an absolutely absurd finish, like I guess like at the Charlotte Road or the Charlotte Roval, he came like 11th. I guess something like that would probably work.
Is that absurd?
Or if like,
is that absurd? He couldn't get a top 10. Like, what if he's just there?
Yeah, it would be absurd to get a top 10. I don't think he's ever gotten a top 10, but like
being that he's in an SHR Ford, I would probably not be super impressed by if we're saying the Fords are shit and slow. At that point, you might as well just play Gregson starting 39th.
Yeah, it's just the only time I could see you ever needing to even go this cheap is if like it just so happens to be like Reddick, Elliott, and Bell who are just like crushing or something ridiculous like that. They're still like he's just borderline maybe playable just to be like wildly different. And then I guess you could throw Stenhouse in there as well.
I was gonna say Stenhouse,
maybe Zane Smith, but the rest of these guys really are just like fades. Like, why would you play them? Maybe Hemrick, but
very fadey. Ricky Stenhouse, though, you do every once in a while he does pop off with something
impressive. 7th here last year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's pretty much all that there is to this.
If he did that
400 to 1,
if he did 7th place again, he is in the tournament winning lineup all day.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's noteworthy. I'm going to take a quick glance at Brady here. And without showing it on screen, just for some interesting, I guess, contrary points, Brady definitely
I think he's more on SVG.
Yeah, he likes the SVG situation. Shane Van Gissenberger, or whatever his name is. He definitely likes Kyle Busch a little bit more than the field, and is a little more fadey on Reddick than the field would be, which is interesting. From the back, Bowman, loves Logano. Gregson loves Gregson. I think Gregson is, pretty locked into somebody you want a lot of exposure to. That pretty much tells the tale. Logano, not so good at this track, but who cares? He's starting 35th. Makes sense. Bowman, race-winning upside. You just talked about that. Buescher more than McDowell for some reason. Even though Buescher's starting ahead of McDowell. So that pretty much does it for this one. Last words of advice. Wait, actually, before you say your last words, guys, if you enjoyed it and you hung with us for an hour, breaking down a COTA, make sure you've got the like button smashed. You're subscribed to the DFS Army channel. You like these breakdowns, We do them all the time, every week, all sports. It's happening nonstop here on the DFS Army YouTube channel for my DFS Army people. So make sure you hit the like button. You subscribe to the channel so that you're aware when this stuff comes out. We do drop links always, and we channel tag in our Discord whenever we put a video out. So if you're in there, you're going to see these. But if you're not, or you're not paying attention, you're going to miss out. So, we've been crushing NASCAR. I haven't even, I should be throwing on screen, Taco, all these winners, just nonstop, first place, second place, third place in these NASCAR trucks and Xfinity. We do it all.
Had a good week.
Yeah, it's been an awesome week.
Last week too. Last week was really good.
Absolutely. I gotta remember to throw these wins up on screen when we do these breakdowns and congratulate the winner. But a week passes and I forget about it. But like it has been a spectacular week. No one does NASCAR like DFS Army does. So if you enjoy NASCAR, make sure you're subscribed and get in DFS Army. Get in, subscribe now. Get in there. Join us. We're having a lot of fun. We're taking down tournaments, and this is by far my favorite off-season, DFS DGen, just NASCAR and a little MMA in the off-season is just like in the off-NFL season is just where the fun is at. It's just the weekends. It's really a good time. So make sure to check it out. We got MLB starting up next week, another sport that we absolutely dominate on using the domination station.
Should have UFL, but DraftKings does not want to make salaries for that ever. So it's weird.
I'm kind of happy about it. I'm not a fan of, I don't need football in the off season. It's enough. Plus being in New York, I can't play that shit. So it doesn't matter. They don't allow it. New
York.
How
I feel about the college sports, man.
Yeah, I don't allow it here. So I can't get that into it. How many dominators? I would say we talked about this earlier, but Taco, would you say it's not an at least two situation? It's certainly at least one if we set all of the dominators. Do you think it's at least two?
I think you just need to add maybe Allmendinger. And yeah, honestly, you do that. You can probably do it'd be at least one, at most two. But there is a possibility that the whole race is just a clusterfuck, and then all place differential could work. Or
SVG,
you get someone like Bowman or Busher maybe as a dominator. That's like some sub 1% shit. But that, I mean, again, if I'm setting a hard rule, I kind of want it to cover these situations. Maybe make it a hard rule of like at least one, at most two, and then just like manually run some extra lineups that don't have any dominators, just because I'm still not sold on the at least one dominator part, but running most of your lineups without like a Gibbs or Reddick does feel kind of weak.
I would say at least one is pretty locked in. If you got a good enough group, you can lock in at least one. I don't think domination matters that much on this track.
That's the thing. There's only 60 laps to go around. Like,
domination is not going to factor into what wins, but I do think that one of these studs that we're talking about, see, it's not so much about domination, Taco. Yeah. It's about the way the
finishing too. Works. These guys, those top dominators are very, very likely to win.
The way the optimizer works, people don't. You should understand this by now, but people don't. Like, value is going to rise to the top every time, but value is not necessarily what wins a tournament. So a play stiff guy is almost always going to project better than some pretty good driver starting, seventh.
Yeah,
the play stiff guy is just always gonna, because he's got a higher mean projection. The play stiff guy has a smaller range of outcomes than the person starting third. The person starting third, if they finish in first, amazing, they won you the race. But if they finish in 13th, they're getting a -10 like that. That just fucks them all up. So the optimizer accounts for that. And it does not like the driver starting up front as much, especially in a track like this where we can't assign many dominator points to those guys. What was I going to say? I had a whole thing I was going to say about it, but
it's worthwhile pointing out that whole range of McDowell, Busher, Bowman, Blaney, Logano, value-wise, all projects higher than Gibbs.
Yeah. They're going to be forced into your lineups unless you limit it. So when you're optimizing for this, if you're running the optimizer, be aware that, again, it's the same thing with all sports, and you guys should be aware of this stuff. The value is going to be jammed into the lineup as much as possible. So you have to force some of the non-value, but rather upside domination plays in there if you want to have any of them at all. Like, you're going to have to force it. Taco, let's do a win pick prediction. And guys who are watching, they're still with us, give us your win prediction. Let's have a little fun. Who do you think is going to win this thing? if you had to bet, who do you think is going to win? Let's stay away from, I mean, Ty Gibbs is the favorite. Reddick is up there.
No Reddick or Gibbs?
I mean, beyond those two, do you have if you had to place some money on a bet, on a win prediction bet?
I mean, beyond those two, I've had to place some money on a bet. It would be Shane Van Gisbergen.
Shane Van Gisbergen.
He probably is the most upside to just run away with it.
Okay. Guys used to driving a stock car. What does he come from? Doesn't he come from like F1 or something?
He comes from Australia Supercars, which a lot of these Australian supercar drivers are getting the attention of NASCAR with the switch to the next gen car.
Similar?
Australia is very similar to their Australian supercar, and yeah, we saw him just absolutely smurf on everyone at the Chicago street race, because that's a very similar street race setup to what he's used to. But
I cannot deny
yesterday in Xfinity, like, he can hang with some of the best of them. He was up there with Gibbs and Allmendinger the entire race competing, and just got taken. He was set to win the whole race, but he got taken out by Austin Hill in the last lap, which let Larson just cruise on by for a free win. Larson had no business winning it. If Hill races that completely clean, he would have won yesterday, which is mighty impressive. And yeah, he's a quick learner too, as we've seen from his starts in the Xfinity race. So yeah,
I think
SVG.
Yeah, he did well yesterday. So SVG, I love the 9-1 odds that you're getting on him. So it's definitely a sexier play than taking 4-1 Gibbs to win. I like. Yep. We got some guys talking about
Stiffy.
Kyle Busch. I don't mind that 26-1. It's really just a good odds play, right? 26-1. I only need to win that one out of any 26 times. I think if you run this race 26 times, Busch is winning it a couple times, I think. And then there you go. Don Juan says Bowman. I think that's also a solid pick.
For as much as I gassed up Bowman, maybe I could have picked him to win, but I think he's just getting like a fourth place or something similar to last week, where he just ends up there at the end, gets like a third or fourth, and it's just crazy value.
I'd rather take my shot on Bowman at 29-1.
No, I think SVG wins way more often.
Yeah, no, I don't mean that SVG. I was gonna go Bowman or SVG, and SVG should win way more. He's 9-1.
Yeah, I think he wins proportionally more than Bowman as well. Like
Mega
Royals got a lot of big upside.
Mega Royals just in here. What is it? Trolling. Thanks, Mega, for the troll.
Hemrick last night he dropped to 1,000-1, so I don't know about that one.
Chastain. Well, if you run it 1,000 times, Chastain at 15-1, starting sixth. Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways to go.
Yeah, Chastain definitely. Although if you run it 1,000 times, 0 of those times Hemrick is winning.
Yeah, but Chastain wins it a lot. Chastain is one of those guys. Do not ignore. He's been good at these. He's sneaky. You got silent but deadly. Alex Bowman, SBD. A lot of fun things to account for in this track. I'm reading Brady's sheet. Listen, if you guys aren't subscribed to DFS, you don't get to see all the sheets and the notes. We do this for every race, trucks, Xfinity, and the excitement coming out of Brady's pen on SVG is actually getting me excited. I could see he wrote it with such excitement. There's even a little shaking in the handwriting. See it. He's like, I fucking bet it. He's got big Boku bucks riding on SVG. There's no doubt about it. All right, guys. Good luck today. I think the race starts at 4:15 today, so a little bit later start than usual.
It's 3:30.
Oh shit.
Well, that was a listed start time. Usually
3:47 now.
DraftKings goes off of the green flag. So
okay, so we've got a few hours till race time.
We got 3 hours.
3 hours till race time.
A bit under 3.
Plenty. It only takes me about 2 minutes to run 150 on the Dom. But then another couple hours of
the tinkering, right? I was about to say setup can't take that long.
Yeah, the tinker takes a couple hours. So, I'll be doing this up until like seconds ticking off the clock. Get my upload in. I got it. 3, 2, 1. Boom.
If anyone wants to know what the shitter rule is, just anyone projected under 30 points at most won. There you go. Thumbs up.
Don wants 7-5. You can play one unique. You can play two uniques. You can play three.
So that's a personal preference thing. I get that question a lot, and
It's your preference.
I always use one because I don't mind having a one-off. I think most people would prefer two. Three is kind of wild. That's just over constricting, I think.
Three is better if it's a surprising race and it doesn't go how you think. Three. And what I'm going to recommend for this, guys, and this is really, really important. I know we love to ask these questions and hey, what have you figured out? But the reality is this: everybody's got a little bit of a different style.
Yeah.
And it's really important that after the race, and I'm just gonna, for everybody who's stuck around, there's still a lot of people watching live. I'm going to give you some important advice. After every single week, you must go back and back test what you did. Okay, the domination station is set up to allow you to become a better player at DFS, unlike other situations. I don't know what I don't think other optimizers quite honestly do this. But you can go back and you can rerun this. And you should be doing that every single race. Run it with one unique, run it with two uniques. You need to change around how you're pro. Hey, what if I went all in on a guy? You need to see what works. Can you produce a win, even knowing in hindsight what won the race? We have Final Fantasy points in the back test. So when you're doing that, you will see what you can score. I go back and I look and I run my stuff with one unique and two uniques. And for me, Taco, I've had better results with two uniques. Like I do this all the time. And when I put the second, unless I'm all in on two spots, if I go all in on one, I've done better traditionally. My highest scores are produced with two uniques, right? But if I go all in on two spots, then it goes to one unique. So not every track you go all in. So you have to understand it yourself and how you approach the game, and then go back and do it week after week after week with the benefit of hindsight. You can run it. You're running it based on the projections we have in there from pre-race. But then you can sort by Final Fantasy points to see what your lineups would have done. Try it with one unique, try it with two unique, try it with three. Understand different track types and how it gets all muddled between these different styles. After a while, and by the way, you can go back and rerun the last 2 years worth of NASCAR races if that's what you want to do. But it's best to do it right after the same night because it's still fresh in your mind what you were doing on that race. Going back and back testing 3 years ago, that doesn't help me that much. I don't remember what I was doing. Tonight, I'll be back testing this one like I do every Sunday night. Like that is just what I do. And you figure it out. So for me, I found that two uniques is better. But Taco, you win all the time. And one unique has worked for you. But my assumption, Taco, is you probably do you go real heavy on one driver, maybe two sometimes?
Not
I don't think you do that. But
typically, I tend to just go double field, but rarely do I ever have anyone over 70%. And if I do, they're probably chalky.
Yeah. So there you go. But even 70% on a chalky driver, that is heavy exposure, right, to one driver. And if you do a couple of those, that's when you could get less uniques going. If you're more, I want to spread my stuff around, I think you do two uniques is better. But to each their own. I'm only saying that because we get these questions and I don't want to answer it as if there's a right answer, because there isn't. It's the style that you want to do.
Yeah, some people are more risk averse than others. Like I'm kind of in it for the long run. I don't care too much about going all in on a certain week. I don't like returning zero. Not a big thing of mine. So I'm a more conservative player than most, but it's probably better in the long run to be aggressive. Again, just depends on the amount of bankroll you're down to churn.
Where's Tan Guy? He knows better than anybody. Yeah. No one's been winning more across multiple sports than Tan Guy lately. So I love him to chime in on this. But in general, I have seen a little bit of what he does, and he definitely goes for I believe without knowing.
Sometimes how much salary left is too much, and actually, you can leave if you have like Gibbs as like your guy over Reddick. You could leave 1,000, almost up to 2,000 on the table when you run these. It's actually absurd, especially if you want to take a shot on a guy like Stenhouse or something. There's really not that much wrong with leaving up to 2,000 on the table. Sounds weird, but this is very Daytona-esque. Like,
hold on, let me run 150 and see natural how much salary gets left on the table. I'm going to run 150 and we'll do a salary sort just to see what salary just naturally gets left on the table. Optimization, 5-10% is always plenty for NASCAR for me. These are high numbers, so like you don't want to do 20-30%. I'll probably be in the 5% or below range on randomization. I like my exposures to be controlled pretty well. A little randomization just so it gets different from other DFS Army subscribers for the most part.
So I like a good amount of randomization at this track, because I see this as being a high carnage run.
Okay, interesting. Hang on. What was I saying? Yeah.
Sorted by salary.
Salary, right? Yeah, dude, you're getting natural lineups with 48K. So it's exactly what you just said. You can leave as much as 2K on the table.
Yeah, that's if you're going for Gill in there. And it's not, I mean, you're playing the two.
Then the two dominators.
You're playing Reddick also. Yeah. So it's not like the worst. It's not like the worst lineup.
Yeah, I don't love Jones in here, but in general, like, okay, right? That's, I guess the Jones lineups are the ones where you're going to get that really cheap price point. Do we get a lot of Jones in this run? 18%. Yeah, it's a little bit.
Let's Jones is another top 10 by some magic, you know.
Taco, I don't know how. I mean, Mikey McDowell, the top exposure. I'm a little surprised.
I'm not surprised. He's starting 27th and he's been elite.
Yeah, I guess there it is. Like it loves Mike McDowell. Blaney getting a lot of Blaney, a little dangerous. Yeah. Gilly here, Jane Van Gilzenberger, SVG. Who are we not getting on this run? I'm just curious.
Josh Berry.
Yeah. So let's see here. Well, all the turds, no turds.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of unfriends this week.
Unfriend you. I unfriend you. Hold on. Where is she? Where is Martha? Where is Doris?
I unfriend you. That's not
Doris.
No Prix. Which is fine. It's starting 24th.
It's gonna pay me. I'm actually gonna run one
10 pal site. Yeah, it would be like just one-offs.
Taco, I'm running a Colo lineup, just one. I'm gonna throw it away because I'm not gonna quit him. That is actually just for my personal.
Yeah, play him the dime or something.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw one away. I'm gonna throw one away with Colo, because I'm trying to keep the streak going.
Do it on FanDuel.
There, get a little Kyle Busch showing up. He showed up in a couple of lineups.
No Bell. Notably no Bell. So you may want to throw a min on Bell.
Yeah.
So Bell and Truex, I would definitely put some mins on. Just looking at this for
they could just hang around. Are those the only two from the zero exposure crew that you feel like I should be forcing? A little Ricky.
Yeah, a splash of Ricky. A little splash. It does have a little upside. But yeah, I mean, it looks perfectly fine outside of you're going to want a little Truex and you're definitely going to want some Bell.
What about Kobayashi? He's got an awesome name.
I mean, so he's ran one race last year and he ended up getting Stenhouse, but before that he was running like 26th. A big sim guy apparently, so.
Is he Japanese?
Yeah. Kobayashi.
I just feel like this name was like the name Kobayashi just stands out so much.
Strikingly Japanese. Yeah, he's Japanese. Toyota racing development guy. If this race was done on iRacing, maybe he would be a pretty good play. But
yeah, not getting much Barry. But you know what?
There's not a whole lot. The evidence that we have, which is last year in his spot start, he was nothing special.
Looking at these exposures, what would you adjust? I think this is a lot of chase.
Yeah.
Not enough Shane.
Yeah, definitely.
Probably way too
more
much.
Shane, probably less Chase, more Bell.
A little, maybe less Blaney. A little less Blaney.
Yeah, less Logano.
Yeah, you don't.
I don't think any of those place differential guys should be over like 40%. You probably should just spread it out.
Be careful.
Maybe McDowell.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Maybe
a little more Keselowski. I
don't know, man. I hate Keselowski, and I know he's going to burn me, but yeah. It's going to be interesting. All right, let's get to it, guys. Race day. Good luck, everyone. Sign up for DFS Army if you're not in there. Be part of the crew. Be part of the team. What are you waiting for? The price only goes up for DFS Army, Taco.
That's everything in life.
Yeah, there's inflation happening, and Everybody who's locked in here has been locked in for a year, 2 year, 3 year. They're at 49. They're at different price points. The price just goes up. The more you wait, the more you're going to pay. And we're still like half the price of every other site, by the way, because we're trying to be the everyman site. I love seeing DFS Army members win. And I look at every other DFS site out there, and it's just their staff. They're posting staff wins all the time. They're like, look how great we are. Our staff won. Okay. That dude was winning before he became on your staff. So what the hell did you do?
I don't know.
What did your tools do? They don't even use your tools. They don't use them. We got member wins. It's totally different here.
Yeah, I don't care if I win.
I do care if you win. I want you to win. I want to win. I want me to win. I don't give a fuck. But like, I love it when our members
gambling guy.
What's that?
But very happy when y'all win.
Yeah, I'm very happy when the members win. But I like winning myself even more. Mm-hmm. But that's not the point. The point is our members are winning. That's the difference. We teach it.
Yeah, I just claim the brake pad. I'll win the brake pad. Everyone else can win everything else.
Yeah, I'll take. Leave me the chrome horn or the flea.
There you go.
That's all I care about. Take one down. All right. Good luck, everybody. Let's see those helmets at the top of the lineups. At the top of the leaderboards. Good luck, everyone. Helmets up.